Okay, this is going to be a little bit of practice because normally I've been taking advantage of right after going to work. I'm still full of all the energy, even though today I gotta admit I'm feeling pretty punished. I got some aches and pains. The age has definitely caught up with me because I'm doing such intense labor day in and day out after 2 months of just kind of working from home. So, oh boy. But regardless, before I even get out of bed, the first thing that I want to do is use the good old phone and just check up on the world news. And of course, what's up, Twisted? Glad that you're the first one because this thing I want to say real quick is the only thing that's relevant to some of the content as of late, which is in reference to the Glazers and the Simps and all that. And I can't, I am not the person that I used to be where I was afraid to say names. Shamrock, Shabbat Shalom, and I'm glad you're here based on some of the things I'm going to share after I get this out of the way. First and foremost, all right, Gay D, AD. I watched a little bit of your, probably one of the last times I'm ever going to watch one of your stupid videos. You're such a hypocrite, man. You talk about everybody else and how they're wasting away and whatnot, and you have such a private life, and you talk about how you got a demon inside you. You're so crazy, dude, and people would be a fool, an absolute fool, to mess with you. You're not scaring anybody. You're not intimidating anybody. I'm sorry to hear you have a court case or something to that degree with crazy Snaggy who decided to call 911 on you for like 44 times. That's crazy shit, dude. But you're no better than them. You roll with the same fleas that you go after, and it gives you an endless stream of content. That Charlie D fella that you're all turning on right now, who is one of your own, inevitably you're all going to eat your own. So you found out when he was 18, he was getting chicks liquored up and was doing bad things, right? You're all the same. You're all on the same level, and let's go back. Let's default to this that I know you've heard it before. If they'll do it with you, they'll do it to you. You don't have real friends. You have people that pay attention to you when you hit a live button. So when you were talking and going on about how when I'm here, is that right? Holy shit. A quick synopsis, and I don't want to give this dude a shout out because he's not important. He has his own YouTube legacy he's working on. God bless him. And I wish no ill will. But I did not know that particularly. I'm not going to share that on the screen. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. This is what happened, and I'm sorry to hear it. But look at all the time he spends on YouTube and while talking about, well, people have no lives. He's a fucking dopehead. Weed is harmless, but that's all that he does. And I'm spending way too much time on this topic. But when I watched his little video, he was talking about how I'm up here. What is it? I'm mad that Ryan, or that I want to finger Ryan's butt, right? Up church. This is the insinuation. Because I criticize him, which is how that man started his entire platform. He started it by going after church and the Glazers, and now he pretends, quote unquote, it was all a troll. It was all a troll. And I'm noticing anytime he gets caught with his proverbial pants down, he says, it's a troll. It was a troll. I'm just playing that fucking 6D chess. No, you're not. You're just a moron in disguise, trying to think you're ahead of the game. And look at this, your main managing mod was doing SA, and now this is the type of people that you're rolling with, and you think that you're just not affiliated. Sometimes you are defined by the people you surround yourself with, and I hate to see the consequence as a result. He got his first subs off. That's right, PBR gave you a huge boost because you were calling him out at first, and then you stabbed him in the back, which just seems to be par the course in that environment, in that community. And I pray that you get out of it and take care and tend to the issues that are real life, man, and not even focusing solely on fucking a loser like Martha Martin Uncensored Speaks, that loser who is just a shell of a human being. You can do better. So again, all right, what he said in one of his videos about addressing this Charlie D shit, because he's affiliated by namesake alone, he was saying I'm acting like a Roman. Right now, we're on the precipice of Israel, Iran, and America going head to head. Ideologies are going head to head. What the fuck do you mean when you're saying I'm acting like a Roman? Is this an inference of anti-Semitism I'm detecting? And are you trying to do it through a veil? Just if you're an anti-Semite, just come out and say it. I just watched 20 seconds of your first video where you're clearly more upset than I've ever seen you, but you like to talk about how other people dance for you. You're doing the dancing right now. What's up, C Fouls? Was pissed at Ryan because of Rodney. What happened to that conviction? That's righteous conviction to be upset that somebody's slandering a child who is no longer with us. I don't know what happened. He saw where the views were coming from and he joined him. He joined him. But I just want to know, if you're trying to be anti-Semitic for the sake of lulz, stand on that shit. And in reference to me complaining that I want Ryan to touch Ryan Upchurch's butt, which is it's hilarious. Trust me, I see the allure. Oh, and that you're really doubling down that the Zephyr Hills I had in my hand was vodka, and that I'm crashing out. Yeah. Okay, so let's play the game that everything I say on the internet is true, right? Because nobody ever lies on the internet. This here, ignore the label, ignore it. This here is moonshine, and this is called acting. Oh man, that burns going down. Homeboy, I don't think watched the entirety of the video and has gone on a rant about how I was drunk. Or maybe that's just the go-to. It's ad hominems. They can't attack the substance of what you say, so they just gotta, attack whatever else they can add on. I'm sorry that everything that's happening in your personal life is happening, but I don't understand the hard on you have for me standing my own ground here. Now, real quick, this is going to be a very, very hard segue. Thank you, Shamrock. Butt touching for everybody. No, that's a terrible thing to lead in with. Okay, here's the segue here. I listened to a bit about Iran, and this is a rough one, and I'm gonna have to maybe tiptoe on how I address it. I wish this did not show up on my news feed. Hold on, let me close that. Okay. I don't even like. Okay, you can see the headline: 796. I don't want to even code it up because it seems disrespectful and childish when this is very serious. Hold on, let me drink the moonshine. That's almost 800 babies that never got to have a life expected to be found hidden in septic tank at unwed mother's home run by nuns. This is not in the States, thank God. Sometimes I find myself thinking about when I was that progressive in Progressive Patriot. I want to not regret making that name because the intention was to show that we're unified on certain things, right? And now I'm mostly Patriot because I'm all in on Trump. I've gotten some very kind comments of people that don't like Trump, but say they like, what I have to say. And I appreciate that more than ever right now, especially. I finally can say I believe in God, but when it comes to like the organized religion aspects, I'll go to my meetings and all that. Again, because I've been sober for 5 going on 6 months now. This is just diabolical, and I have to blame the religious organizations that sweep the shit under the rug, man. We know that. Now, I'm not attacking Catholicism. I was raised Catholic before I accepted any of my Jewish heritage, and then I became a Christian when I was like very young, middle school age. But something consistent in the Catholic Church that I kept on noticing, even as a kid watching the news, was that their priests are unhinged. They did the most heinous, terrible shit, and children were always the victims, and they would not give accountability to the idiots, the monsters that would hide under their cloth. They wouldn't put them away. They wouldn't chastise or punish them. No, they do PR movements and indoctrinate more people and shuffle them around and move them around from church to church, further away, somewhere hidden, that, somewhere not on the grid, so that they can just keep on doing what they do. You know how many documentaries I've seen that were inspired by some poor adult that when they were a child was having terrible, horrible things done to them in a school for boys run by a Catholic church. Again, I'm not attacking Catholicism, but what the fuck is this? So this was so horrifying. This literally had me going, I need to just get the word out. So I haven't even completed reading this shit, but I saw enough, and now I'm gonna share where I started and go from there. Excavate, and I believe this is Ireland, not the United States. Excavation has begun on a septic tank at a site in Ireland that authorities believe contains the remains of nearly 800 babies and children who died at a home for unwed mothers run by Catholic nuns. I'm sorry I should have said like trigger warning to anybody that wasn't ready for this shit. I haven't gone to work yet. Today is a night shift. I'm used to the mornings. Many of the infant remains are feared to have been dumped in the cesspool known as the pit. How does this happen, like, without people in the community knowing? Bribery? The church? You can't cover up something so massive. I'm beside myself with, like, horror here, man. Okay, all right, I gotta shake it off a little bit. Former institution in the small town of Tuam, Tuam, County Galway. Local historian Catherine Corliss told Sky News. In total, 798 children died at the home between between 1925 and in its closure in 1961. So we didn't have the digital. See, this is where I can see, even though I fear the way technology is running rampant. See the video yesterday about AI. But it's harder to hide in the darkness with in the digital era. But it also seems like the darkness, which is eternal, can always find ways to, survive and even evolve to hide in plain sight. But this, we still had human beings out there, and people have universally always cared about the children, right? I don't understand how this is just resurfacing now, or I'm interested in how this story has come onto my newsfeed like 2 day o'clock. I'll check the phone later. Of which just 2 were buried in a nearby cemetery. 2 out of the almost 800 children, 2 were buried, were given a proper burial. I don't get it. Come on. Okay. Corliss research found there's this impromptu kind of memorial that was made with the Mother Teresa, or Saint Teresa. Sorry, my Catholicism is rusty. Is it almost an insult? I mean, this is out of the intention of a good heart to give a memorial to these lives that never got to be. But I personally, I can't speak for anybody else. I find it a little insulting that they're putting them to rest under the same guise of the religion that brought them in to protect them. And that's my problem. I can't, these people were well intended. I keep saying that, though. Good intentions, they really get you nowhere. The other 796 children's remains, YouTube is not going to like this content, so thank you for being here while it's live, are believed to be under the site of the Bon Secours mother and baby home, which was demolished in 1971. 1971. This should have been a well-established story. This can't be breaking news. I refuse to believe it. Then I got something to say about Iran. Okay. It was a maternity home. Maternal, huh? For unmarried mothers and their children, run by a religious order of Catholic nuns. Unmarried pregnant women. See, this is why I've flipped my whole script. See, when in the progressive name of Progressive Patriot, there was always core values that I've held, even though I've gone almost full red pill. which was our medical healthcare system is not as good as I'd like to see. And I always stood by, being pro-choice. But then when I see how humanity runs amok, when you really take away the borders of checks and balances in any shape or form, and you can call it an infringement of people's rights or women's rights, but this is what happens apparently. And you can't pretend either that putting it into law and overturning Roe v. Wade is going to prevent things, because where a book can be made or an ideology can be produced and inspired to pass on, it's going to get done and it's going to get radicalized. And that's a big focus of my live stream today before I go to work. There's no real solution, but speaking about it like in the light, so to speak, unapologetically, just sharing the information and not I don't like the censorship of this age in the digital era and all the social media platforms. The less censored you go, the harder it is to get spread. But I mean, here we are. Radicalism. I'm a little disturbed. Okay, all right. They were separated from their newborn children, who would be raised by the nuns. Monsters. What kind of monsters? Until they were adopted, often without the consent of their families. The full scale of the tragedy at Bon Secours. I'm going to copy and paste this so I can look this up before I go to work. I got some time. 2014. That's a long time. This was a very openly kept secret. 800 souls, man. 798 to be exact. 2 of which got a burial. 796 that did not. In a septic tank or under. Look at, oh my God. You see that picture? It was only in 2022 that legislation was, wow, we are slow. We are slow when it comes to getting the right things right. I'm not trying to be a preacher. I'm not trying to be a preacher, and I'm not without sin, right? Nobody's without sin, but this is diabolical. And under the name or under the veil of holiness, it makes it even worse. I don't even understand how that the Vatican is still in such power. And that's really faux pas for me to say, because I know the majority of my Colombian family are still Catholic. I mean, a lot of them are Christian, but some of them still go to Catholic church because that's how they were raised in Colombia. That's a heartbreaking picture. 1939. Rest in peace. That was excavated. Now, finally, more than a decade on, a team of investigators began their forensic investigation this week. It is expected to take up to 2 years to identify the remains of the infants and give... Sorry, I need a moment. Jesus. And give them a dignified reburial and offer some degree of closure to survivors. I don't care if it's a... What is this? Thimbleful. As they tell me, there wouldn't be much remains left at 6 months old. It's mainly cartilage more than bone. Annette McKay, whose sister is believed to be one of the 798 victims, told Sky News. Has anybody seen this on the mainstream media at all? Anybody, I just feel free. If you've heard of this at all before today, let me know. Her mother, Marguerite Maggie O'Connor, gave birth to a baby, Mary Marguerite, at the home after she was, forgive me for using the code word here, raped at the age of 17. The dad died 6 months later, and her mother only found out when a nun told her. She was pegging washing out, and a nun came up behind her and said, "The child of your sin is dead." See, under the guise of using God as a reason to do the unthinkable, said Annette, who now lives in the UK. Okay. This is the last paragraph. This is kind of rough. Okay. All right. Ponce was just one institution. I don't want to see another story like this get uncovered. And that shit like this is still happening. I remember I don't like panic porn, right? But I'm still an individual that's just still kind of pulling all of my ideology that was kind of birthed in the progressivism movement, and it was a hard pill to swallow with the footage and the videos and all the secretly recorded meetings of people that ran these clinics, and it's really hard for me sometimes to deal with that truth, but I need to. You need to face the truth unapologetically and unafraid. And I have to concede and I have to accept that this is these clinics, they're not all this. I can't say that. I can't generalize that. But to avoid this, I mean, something in legislation and something more has to be done. The true extent of which has only been revealed in very recent years. Mothers at Bon Secours who reoffended by having more children out of wedlock would be sent to Magdalene laundries, the infamous Irish institutions for so-called fallen women, usually run by Catholic orders. Oh, I'm sure that was run absolutely, without a hitch. I could only imagine, especially back in that day. But quietly supported by the state. Oh, and there it is. And this is why I'm still an advocate. This is unchanged. Separation of church and state is important. Funded by the state. Funded by the fucking state, man. I that's a big issue, okay? And you can give way too much power to these institutions if there is government funding. Originally, the term fallen women was applied mostly to sex workers, but the Magdalene laundries would come to take in seduced women, victims of rape and incest, and female orphans or children abandoned or abused by their families. What are these named? The commission report concluded that 9,000 children had died in the homes across Ireland. Homes were run in various ways, some funded by and managed by local health authorities, and orders by Catholic religious orders. In her kitchen, she showed AFP a copy of a 1947 inspection report of the 2M home. And here's the closing statement. The last of the Magdalene laundries only closed their doors in the 1990s. Ireland's government issued a formal state apology in 2014. In 2022, a compensation scheme was set up, which has so far paid the equivalent of $32 million to 814 survivors. You can't just put money on that. Throwing money at accountability is not going to cut it. All right, here's something I wanted to share. Thanks for sticking around. This is a rough one. I did not know I was going to get into that. All right, in the context of Israel and Iran and America, I want to focus on something that I don't know what you call these assholes. Ayatollahs, this leader in Iran that has become the poster child of the violence to come. He just did a shout out on Twitter that's going to get the whole fucking Muslim nation involved. And this is my big issue with Islam, because unless somebody in that religion specifically steps out to speak out against it, 100% we cannot pretend what they're, not all about. They are 100% from the river to the sea. Okay, death to America, execute all the Jews. I hate this. Let's pretend that we can negotiate with them. I feel terrible for the civilians, but this is the same indoctrination in them. So I did a little history research on this specific call out because this anchor on CBN News did such a good job of explaining it. And you don't negotiate with this. I don't want to see World War III. And I am not happy that Netanyahu attacked before Trump was able to conclude any sort of negotiations, even though Iran wasn't going to come to the table at all. So then, I don't know where the blame goes. But here, let me show you. This is what this Iran Islamist extremist leader tweeted. Oh, to be in an age where high-ranking politicians and warmongers tweet at each other. And now he's in hiding. but he did his big dog whistle to the entire Islamic State. And in talking about immigration, remember, they want Sharia law, okay? I'll be damned if the U.S. looks like the U.K. or Canada.
Let me break down the message that Khomeini sent, and it's kind of interesting. Ayatollah would use X to communicate this. He would send out a tweet. In the name of Haider is the Haider in Arabic means lion, and so he's claiming an ancient name for a relative of Muhammad named Ali. All the way back in the beginning of Islam, you have to go back to the 600s for this story. There was a Jewish community, around 10,000, that lived outside of Medina. It was one of the first military victories for Muhammad and his relative Ali.
So the hashtag that this Ayatollah did was what this dude is explaining. It's just a singular name who was a brother to Muhammad. So that speaks to every active Muslim extremist. Let me at least separate an extremist and a radical from a peaceful practitioner. What always grinded my gears, though, with all of the real life Muslim friends I've made, two of which I asked eye to eye, face to face, would you kill me if there was an actual jihad? Stone cold, yes. One of them said no. So, I don't know. This is like a very personal battle that I have to go through. But, okay, anyway, this is the context of the shout out, though. So, this is reaching everybody that practices.
He was sick, and Muhammad wanted him to lead the charge, and so he gave him a banner, and that banner apparently strengthened him. And the place where they fought is called Khyber. There was a force of 1,400 Muslims against 10,000 Jews, and they won an overwhelming victory. And the sword involved in that victory, wielded by Ali, was a double-edged sword that struck the leader of the Jewish settlement there and split his head all the way down to his teeth. That became a famous symbol. You see it throughout the Ottoman Empire. You see it throughout Iranian symbology.
What a beautiful icon to share with your people. What a banner to unite. Yeah. You know, I've had my issues, my own personal issues as studying Christianity, right? Biblical texts, ancient texts are all full of violence, but I've never seen a more unhinged particular religion specifically as barbaric, that still, like, their Sharia law is all about, like, a woman that wants to go out without a hijab, executed, you know? They are not about hiding what they're all about here. So it's just I'm starting to go through a little personal war within myself because I've had great experiences, but when I've also been able to shoot the shit with them, they've been unapologetically honest about how they ultimately feel. They all want Israel to fall, and they would all love to have the overwhelming majority be Muslim. So maybe I'm going to have an interview with one of my old friends that I worked with and talk about this again, because it's really starting to bug me.
Sometimes it's a sword with two prongs at the end. Sometimes it's two swords with the same hilt. This is incredibly important to the Islamic faith, this battle. This is before the conquest of Mecca, to show you how fundamental it is. And in the subjugation of the Jews became the practice that infidels are to pay tribute to the Muslims.
And all of us are infidels and kafirs. If you let's say hypothetically you're around a bunch of Arab individuals that practice Islam, and you hear the word kafir, they're referring to you in that manner, and they're also referring to you in a means that automatically gives permission to lie, cheat, steal, or kill you. That is a kafir, explained to me by my old Muslim friends. One friendship out of them all that I really, really cherish. It was a very sweet human being. gave me a book for my birthday, wrote something beautiful. That's when I was an atheist, and he was trying to get me to believe in God. I hope. I mean, all right. Let me not dig into that right now. I think it was, to my recollection, it was just God in general. I needed saving at that time, big time. But all the others, and I've known quite a few. I've been in many businesses. Every demographic applies. So kafir and infidel. That's what we all are to them, no matter what they say to your face.
Muslims are in control. And it became a symbol for the defeat of Judaism at the hands of Islam. So, for the Ayatollah of Iran to quote all of this as he goes into hiding, he's saying, well, God will give us a great victory against the overwhelming forces of the Jews. It's really important to listen to this kind of
During this is why I opened up the video with AD. What did you mean by calling me a Roman and I'm looking like a Roman? If you're an anti-Semite, just say it, because we're in the environment where we say what we mean now.
symbology because it communicates throughout the Muslim world. We call the Khyber Pass in Afghanistan, after this same battle, the Muslims, when they invaded India and defeated the Hindus, they renamed that pass Khyber. So for him to invoke that against Israel, as Israel in turn is calling on the Lion of Judah, we're going to call on the Lion Ali. That is the clash that we're into. In America, we don't want to talk in terms of clash of religions or clash of civilizations.
This part is all new to me. I didn't get this far, so I'm very intrigued. And I don't know this source, CBN News. I'm starting to assume this might be a completely Christian-based one. But regardless, the truth is the truth. The facts are the facts. And now he's speaking my language. Go on.
We don't want to discuss it that way. But clearly the Iranians are, and they clearly view it this way. We are watching history unfold before us. If Iran is defeated, if this Islamic Republic is somehow miraculously changed, where it no longer is an exporter of terrorism, it's no longer an exporter of this kind of hateful ideology, where we need to wipe out the Jews and we need to defeat the little Satan and wipe it off the map, and then we have to go after the great Satan, the United States. This Ayatollah believes the U.S. is the greatest obstacle to Islam in the world today. That's what they truly think. And are we responding in kind? Do we understand the threat that that ideology presents to us? If we aren't in understanding of it, we're putting ourselves at a grave disservice. We need to understand there's a deep ideology here that's more than willing to hide until it gains enough strength so it can attack again. That's what Hamas did in Gaza. That's what Hezbollah was doing in southern Lebanon. That's what Iran has been doing for decades. Let's wake up and pay attention to what they're saying, because they really mean it.
And isn't this what the
With the
liberal
sword, zoom.
college students are protesting for, right? For their innocence. I wanted to show the actual fucking Twitter. Here it is. That's the picture. So it's in Arabic, but he's hashtagging, so he knows what he's doing. We know how algorithms and hashtags pick up on each other. So this is where he invokes that history we just went through, essentially saying, shout out to my boy Muhammad's brother Hari or Ali or something like that, when we destroyed the Israelis that were in greater number, that when we took out their leader and split his freaking skull from his forehead to his teeth. And that's been our symbol since the 600s, man. This is the college students. This is what's cool. Antifa and my God, the subversion of, or an infiltration of our youth has been so easy, especially in the digital era. And it's absolutely appalling. All right, so I've said everything I've come here to say. This has been heavier than I anticipated. Opening up with that story in Ireland, like, my heart is kind of beating. That was very disturbing, and I wanted to at least bring this to the forefront. What's up, Actions, Twisted Shamrock, Whistling Dixie? I need to get ready for work. This is my first night shift. God bless. Keep your eyes open. Be true to yourself and speak the truth when you know it to be just that, from the heart. Amen and good day. Take care.